Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today we will be running through the monthly report for the Persistent Universe. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. Now, as usual, we have a juicy long report to get through, so get yourself settled, get some snacks, get some drinks, and let's begin. First up, we have the AI features team, who have been improving behaviours of grouped NPCs for a more consistent combat experience. For example, they added an object representing the group that shares perception information about targets at the appropriate time, allowing the designers to tailor combat experiences to the specific demands of the mission by deciding who is and isn't drawn into combat when it starts. Now this, they say, allows them to cheat a behaviour for situations where communication between group members would be expected, for example via a radio, preventing NPCs from doing a full first reaction when they would already know about the fight. And this is the first implementation of the system, and the team will be playtesting and balancing it to make sure it presents a realistic but understandable challenge. So it is very nice to hear that they are implementing a system that will determine whether or not certain NPCs know about your presence, as this will be very necessary for PvP, especially FPS, when taking on NPC bases or locations, being able to stealth through, but NPCs alerting other guards if you are detected. Now, personally, I was really hoping to see this done in a more realistic way, I suppose, rather than it being sort of cheated. For example, having an NPC actually radio to others with a proper comms channel that can be tapped into or disabled or hacked. I don't know if that's something that they would like to do down the line, or whether it can be done at all for Star Citizen, but I would certainly prefer that. Either way, having this sort of system will certainly make navigating areas with many NPCs during combat a lot more engaging and interesting. Now next up, we have an entry from a new team, being AI Game Intelligence Development Tools. Now, one of the team's objectives is to focus on evaluation and improving tools and processes. For example, improving the Apollo subsumption editor and working on a new tool that enables the developers to group or ungroup task functions automatically, allowing them to easily add comments and visualize them when collapsed or expanded. And down the line, another objective is to implement different service solutions for long-term AI functionalities, including the quantum simulation, the battle system, and the commentator module. So great to hear that they are helping with the quantum simulation. Of course, I hope to see an update video on this sometime this year. As mentioned recently, they're hoping to present something that will update us on the progress of quantum sim. Anyway, for the AI tech team, they optimized parts of the vision system used by NPCs, which will help when there are multiple players on the same server, giving improvements to reaction time and frame time. And hopefully this will help to alleviate some of the issues for NPCs when the frame rate or the server frame rate drops low, keeping them more consistent. Now, the team also investigated better ways to synchronize AI data between servers and clients in prep for server meshing, which will allow for smoother transitions by keeping the same context when NPCs move from one server to another. And on the ship AI side, functionality was added to point defense cannons that allow them to track and shoot missiles, and improvements were also made to NPCs following leaders in formation too. And finally, the AI tools team began unifying functionality and fix bugs in prep for the Apollo tool UI redesign. So some good stuff going on there. Formation flying, which of course will be applicable in the PU when we have NPC crews. Point defense cannons will help defend against missiles, not just on capital ships, but most likely planetside when we're building bases as well. Now for the animation team, they continued to fix technical issues with the Copian dogs, animate assets, and created new animations for numerous creatures. So that is really exciting to hear. All we currently know about is the Kazi Grazers that are coming in for Alpha 4.0 around quarter 3, but what else is there? They did say they won't let us know about every creature they release, as they would like us to find them when we play the game. Now next up we have the character art team, who progressed with 3 specialist armors. They also finalized the update to the utility armor and supported requests for the character customizer. Also, art debt was worked on for looting items. And finally, for the character concept art team, they continued exploring designs for utility armors and completed handoff sheets for specialist armors, while the hair team kicked off new beards and hairstyles. Now, I get the feeling that we are going to see a lot of new armors come most likely for Alpha 4.0. We did see quite a few during the Pyro Playground at CitizenCon last year, but I suspect we will see a lot more specific armors for whatever role that we are interested in performing. Hopefully before 4.0 that would be a nice addition for like a 324 point patch, but most likely for 4.0 itself. In fact, the sneak peek for this week's email was of a new armor, but I have no idea which armor this is, and many of these new armors are not just going to be for the combat style of gameplay either. They are going to be industrial, they're going to be for specialist reasons and gameplay. Now next up we have the ship art team, who progressed with the RSI Polaris, getting closer to finishing the interior for the grey box review. Now the exterior is heading towards final content, with the parallax occlusion mapping and lighting being completed. This is still slated to be on track for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo this year. Also, the RSI Zeus Mark II, which is the ES I believe, is approaching its final content review. So very happy to hear that, and as stated, I think it's the Zeus ES that is coming for Alpha 4.0, with another one releasing towards the end of the year, and then the final one being next year. Now finally, it says 7 unannounced vehicles were worked on, 4 of which are approaching their white box review stage, 2 are heading toward grey box review, and the last one is nearly finished. So 7 more ships in the works, 4 very early on in the pipeline being still in white box, so still a bit of a way to go for those 4, 2 of them making it through grey box, so again a little bit more to be done with those 2, but ultimately not too far off being released, and 1 is nearly finished, so we should see that come pretty soon, I reckon. Now next up we have the monster that has become the core gameplay pillar. First up, for Maelstrom, which is the physical damage system, the development stream was recently published to the main internal branch, providing a fresh set of features such as unified mesh format grid with object container support per Maelstrom node for large vehicle destruction. Plus, this also provides tools to link gameplay events with destruction sequences such as shatter, break, and integrity changes. Now this is very exciting to hear. I'm so happy that I think it says the internal branch is now supporting Maelstrom, if I understand that correctly, as this will mean the developers are now using this physical damage system in their development builds. So this means that the system is ready for that stage, which is great to hear, and is getting much closer to getting to a releasable stage, and this is where a lot of the magic happens as well, as they find other ways to utilize this system. Hopefully it will also mean we will be able to see it in action properly if they can show this off, maybe at CitizenCon, or potentially before, depends on what's left to do. But they do want, for capital ships especially, ships to be able to be broken in half, and one half still having power if the battery is providing fuel or the power plant's providing power, whereas the rest of it might not be anymore, giving players time to get to their EVA suits, to get to their lifeboat style things and eject out. So lots to come with Maelstrom, not to mention how much of an impact this is going to have on combat. It is going to be apocalyptic, as John Crew says. Anyway, the unified mesh format brings numerous improvements to the Vulcan pipeline and internal code coverage, alongside a flexible pipeline to bake supplementary data required for Maelstrom destruction. The ability to link internal Maelstrom sequences to game logic advances the dev's ability to easily build complex destruction sequences, and further development will bring Maelstrom destruction entities past the existing legacy destruction and harden the existing pipeline. So yeah, really happy to hear a lot of work going on with Maelstrom. It is one of the most exciting systems that I am looking forward to now, as this will impact everything, and it'll be so cool to see where this can enhance more gameplay. Now, the implementation of the transit refactor began, and for radars and scanners, work was completed to allow FPS ping to be used from certain seats, the first being in vehicles that don't have their own radar, and alongside this, the team resolved several issues when using an FPS radar within vehicle zones to detect things outside. So some interesting information there about being able to use the FPS ping system while in seats. I like that being an option. I'm assuming this will be very helpful for when you are maybe a passenger on a ground vehicle, being able to use that ping effect while you are supporting the driver. That would be most interesting. Now, work continued on the highlighting effects such as FPS ping, with the developers now able to apply different colors for different factors, such as hostility. And several other parameters were also added to the highlight effect to allow the fine-tuning of visuals, including fade, timeout, occlusions, fill, and outline. Also, for radars and scanners, a new mechanic was implemented called Delta Signature, which has vehicles emit signatures when certain actions are performed, like ping activation, the activation of quantum boost, and the changing of master modes going from nav to SEM, with UI to notify players when they detect a Delta signature being implemented as well. Now, this sounds like a really cool addition, especially for things like bounty hunting, when it comes to tracking your prey, and of course stealth gameplay in general. We're going to have these little Delta signatures popping up as players are changing from one master mode to the next, or maybe activating their quantum boost, maybe pinging, just providing a lot more information for, say, the radar or scanner operator being able to get a clearer picture of what vehicles are doing what in the locale. Also though, deciding when to use such functions like quantum boost or even pinging, which will present the risk of being detected, will make gameplay in many areas more thought-provoking. And I cannot wait to see these new scanners and radars, the new signature system, with more than what we have now, having a bit more of a bespoke setup for your ship or its role, and hopefully presenting information in a much more clearer and digestible way. Anyway, support began for new vehicle brackets, including nameplate and distance, and parameters were added to control when and how they should show in different states, such as targeted and pinned. They have also removed the scan operator mode, which will be replaced with an aim-down sight scanning system. So I kind of think this is the first time we have really heard about this plan. It sounds like whoever is operating the scanners, they will be able to sort of aim down sights and do so, and I presume scan in certain directions, gathering the data and analysing the returning signatures to determine what something could be. Now, this is certainly part of the whole exploration gameplay, being able to search in a certain area, long distance, and gather feedback. I hope we hear more about this stuff soon, as it is really intriguing. Now, the team also submitted the framework for a system that will allow design to begin tagging which scan producers specific radars run. For example, medical scanners may see health information, while police scanners could detect contraband. Also, an improvement was also made to the radar system to allow faster scan speeds while maintaining performance, and support continued for radars with the room query system that allows the occlusion of people behind locked doors. So there is a lot coming to radars and scanners. Really nice to hear that they are working so much on these more bespoke scanners for each ship role, like medical and police. Also, when we do have police scanners on our appropriate ships, having ships like the MSR and is it the Taurus that have a bit of a, not a secret hold, but a place where they can put contraband to stop scanners from finding it will be very cool. But also giving players a lot more context and ability to their ship, but also there is plenty of other things going on with how they can function, and it feels like it's going to be quite a big system that not only exposes a lot of other gameplay elements, but should also add a whole new system or station for players to work with, having a dedicated scanner operator, being able to relay information to the pilot, to the captain, and turret gunners, and other people. It is going to be a big, important role. Now, for the Arena Commander FPS Horde mode, the team implemented the Subsumption mission alongside a way to define spawn wave data, with design soon beginning to review the map and marking it up for AI ahead of the Spawn Closet Engineers becoming available post-Alpha 3.2.4. So very excited to see this Horde mode come along. I think it was mentioned that it would be NPC humans and creatures as well as, maybe 2 different game modes. But that is going to be a lot of fun working together in a small team, like a team of 4, fending off creatures or human characters, working together. That is going to be a lot of fun. Also, a playtest was conducted on the EVA-only map, which was supposed to be at Gundo Station, but it says due to the limitations with the location causing balance concerns, the map will not be released and will instead be used for rapid in-situ developer iteration of the EVA system. So it's a shame that we won't see this game mode come along for Arena Commander, but if it's not balanced, then it wouldn't be any fun anyway. Likely, we will see a different EVA game mode come along at some time, but it sounds like that's kind of on hold now. And don't forget, as much as a lot of people aren't interested in Arena Commander, and I understand because the PU is far more interesting, when we get these sim pods in-game and you're able to buy one and put it in your ship or in your hangar, you will be able to jump into Arena Commander while on a quantum travel or waiting for your friends to load in and have a bit of a blast on Horde mode or whatever, and then hop straight out again when your friends are online. Now next up, we have the economy team. They progressed with tasks for Pyro, including setting up the shops and sorting out any related issues. They also continued to implement the effort versus reward algorithm so that the mission rewards are balanced according to the risk and time involved, which we have been hearing about quite a bit these days with the EVR algorithm, which is just to establish a baseline pay with many of the variables in play as well. Now, the economy team also provided support for the upcoming changes to cargo and cargo missions. They also worked to rebalance the prices for entire sets of items, including vehicle components, so power plants, coolers, shields, quantum drives, weapons, and so on, but also for FPS weapon attachments, ammunition, consumables, and commodities. So basically, they have been rebalancing everything to be more aligned with everything else, and I think 3.2.4 is the intended patch for all of these balance changes to the economy in all areas to roll out. So it should all start making more sense. There will definitely be outliers that need to be addressed, but everything should make more sense to how much you can earn, how much it costs, day-to-day living costs, and so forth, hopefully giving a bit more realism to the verse. Now, the team's ongoing work also involves a new economy for quantum and hydrogen fuel to ensure that refueling isn't a chore while maintaining the narrative feel of a large universe with unique economies spread across different star systems. Now, this is going to be a very difficult thing to work out, but essential to ensuring the prices are right but changeable per solar system, especially when Pyro comes, as fuel will be hard to come by, and fuel amounts will likely be rebalanced for all ships at that time, as fuel capacity is currently only balanced for the Stanton system, which is much smaller than Pyro, so do expect a lot of changes to fuel this year, ships having a bit more fuel capacity than they normally do, but smaller ships still requiring larger ships to transport them around in places like Pyro. Now finally, the team are creating player profiles to better understand how different careers gain and use resources, and personally speaking, I am really excited to see all of the work that the economy team are doing. We've been waiting an age for this work to get started, and although initially it won't be immediately dynamic and systemic based on what everyone else is doing, it will certainly be a much welcome addition that will really help to balance out what players will want to do and how much we will earn depending on what we are doing, making the payouts a lot fairer as well. Can't wait to see how this will feel in 3.2.4. Now next up, we have the graphics, visual effects programming and Planet Tech team, and they say last month the stability, performance and memory usage of Vulkan continued to improve and is now much closer to being the default choice for Star Citizen. The team have also been in contact with AMD, Intel and Nvidia to diagnose and fix various driver issues. So glad to hear that they are working with these companies to improve areas like stability and performance, as it's all very important, and as we see more of this core tech roll out and things like Vulkan get more finalized and become the default choice, we should see a lot more optimizations come along as well. Now, the global illumination team worked across a variety of areas, for example, improving radiance cache resolution. They made stability improvements and optimized various areas with Fidelity FX. They also provided rough speculation support, improved motion and depth complexity handling for the screen space light cache and updated the cascade light grid to allow for a greater range of global illumination. Really excited to see global illumination come along. That, alongside ray tracing, is just going to be phenomenal in Star Citizen. Gas cloud color processing volumes were added to allow the artists to vary the appearance of large gas clouds as players traverse them. The team also made the first pass at hooking up the required visual effects to jump points, alongside a new shader for the tunnel and bespoke lighting and shadowing solution for ships inside it. Now, we will probably see all of this on Inside Star Citizen this week as they are taking a deep look at jump points, so going to be an interesting episode, and if they are presenting this now, then they are certainly at a point where they feel ready to show it off. Now, support for the fire hazard system continued, which involved adding directionality to the generalized burn and dirt shader effect for entities, which allows location burning, such as on one side of a door. Visual improvements were also added to creatures, such as the ability to spawn decals from GPU particles. Not quite sure how that's going to play into creatures. I'm assuming textures of their skin, perhaps, but the fire hazard system is slated to release in Alpha 4.0, so alongside engineering, we're going to be fighting fires. Now, a new managed entity region system was designed and entered development, with the goal of this to manage the lifetime of many procedurally spawned entities, such as creatures and mineable rocks. Now, this, they say, is critical to the introduction of persistent entities, server recovery, and server meshing, as these systems require very strict and careful management of entity lifetimes. Also, GPU terrain generation was implemented as a stepping stone to the team's plans for fully GPU-generated visualized terrain, which they say will be utilized in PlanetTech version 5. I am so interested to see what impact PlanetTech version 5 will have. Each time they improve the PlanetTech, they really push the visuals and tech to support much more interesting gameplay, and I really hope that we hear about mining veins at some point too. Finally, an efficient query mechanism was being designed and added to planets, which will be used by the new location scatter tool that will help to populate planets for Star Citizen 1.0. I wonder if any of that will be necessary for base building as well. Now, next up, we have the in-game branding team, who made significant progress across various projects throughout June. This included new navigational signage for Pyro and graffiti for Ruin Station, plus they started work on a new location alongside the landing zone team. For the Interactables team, they finished off liquid containers, which will be used in the upcoming blockade runner missions, plus hazardous containers were worked on too, with the team taking all sizes to final following destructibility tests. And we saw a bit of this on Inside Star Citizen this last week, showing a lot of variation between the new cargo containers, which I believe is a 324 edition, where containers will make sense to what their contents are. And they also have mass, from what I've heard. Now, the lighting team focused on work for Alpha 4.0, including tasks for the new acidic cave archetype, pyro station modules, and outpost locations. So these new acidic caves will be a much welcome addition alongside the sandy caves, plus I know they did mention they were working on redoing the current rocky caves using the new techniques they used for the sandy caves, so making them all more interesting and detailed, likely with creatures in as well for some of them, plus hopefully increasing the number of caves available massively, as when they brought out the sandy caves, I believe they released 170-ish of them. And when I was flying around in the Pyro playground, every time I scanned and looked at a location of interest that popped up, it was a cave. They were everywhere. Now, the lighting team are currently dialing in the atmosphere of all of Pyro's planets and moons to give each a unique look and feel. And next up, we have the location team, with the landing zone team spending time fixing bugs for cargo, alongside adding to the variety of modules available for Pyro stations. The organics team progressed with asset creation for new biomes, who will go on new planets in the future, plus they closed out the acidic cave archetype. So the more biomes they create, the more diverse the planets can be, and the more options they have when it comes to building out other planets over time. And eventually, when they get to the Sol system, our own system, and planet Earth, by the time they tackle Earth, they should have a wide variety of biomes to choose from that will help create a planet like Earth. Now, moving on to the narrative team, they continue to support the cargo gameplay, writing new mission text. The team also dedicated time towards StarCitizen 1.0, diving deeper into the new content that the patch will bring, which includes further expanding the presence of social AI in the verse. Additionally, the team began building out the lore and mission text for a future large-scale event mission, while also providing the branding team with several company bios that will be used to flesh out style guides. Now, for the online technology team, they spent the month working toward completing the social services backend overhaul, which they say will help to boost the performance and scalability of social functions including chat, friends, and groups, as well as enable the service to support a higher volume of concurrent users and requests, all the while simplifying the integration of new features, like for example creating and joining a party from within the Spectrum web portal. Now this is really interesting and it's going to be very important, especially when it comes to fleshing out the orgs more, organizations, as they want players to be able to communicate and plan out gaming sessions even when you're not in game, so via the Spectrum on your phone or on your PC, so not having to be at your PC essentially, but still being able to get involved with your friends playing the game. Not to mention, eventually, a companion app as well. The team also began integrating a new version of Easy Anti-Cheat, plus they progressed with potential features for Alpha 4.0, including significant overhauls to the mission and marker systems, as well as the development of the player trade functionality, which aligns with the overarching objective of achieving server meshing. So a lot is going on for their preparation for server meshing, as with many other teams, but I also really hope to hear more about this player trade feature, as this is something that many of us are already doing in-game while we're off-gridding, as it really adds to the experience of selling items to others that you bump into without having to go back to a physical location to sell it. So the player trade feature is going to be of great importance moving forwards, and it'll be very interesting to see how it functions. Finally, for the networking team, they continued to work towards the first version of server meshing, which included testing various configurations for the mesh and the underlying cloud infrastructure, while capturing critical performance information to help fine-tune the target bottlenecks. Now, for the tech art and animation team, they continued to invest in a wide range of long-term tasks which will improve both the Persistent Universe and Squadron. For example, work progressed on the Put On and Take Off initiative, which they say is close to completion, and these animations will soon be integrated into the game and will significantly enhance the realism of character interactions and provide a more engaging player experience. Now, this is something that will take what we have in Alpha 3.2.4, being the physical inventory system, and push that to a whole new level, where players and NPCs alike will be physically putting on and taking off items of clothing and armor realistically. So watching as you place a jacket on, or your armor or helmets, making the items physical as well, with realistic cloth physics, or star cloth as it's known, and I am so excited to see this. It's not really like a major gameplay revolution, but it will certainly help to push the visual immersion of the game, and especially during multi-crew or around areas of heavy population, not to mention just watching your own character doing that, or stumbling upon a physical helmet on the ground or a chest piece, and seeing it as that item so you know it straight away which armor piece that is, without having to look at the box first. Now, it also says that several creatures for Alpha 4.0 were finalized. Now, as mentioned, we know of the Kazi Grazer being planned for 4.0, which are practically domesticated livestock. So it sounds like there is going to be a lot more for 4.0, some of which will certainly get announced ahead of 4.0's release, but others, as Jared mentioned a while back, we will be finding them out for ourselves. And that is going to be very exciting. If I was to guess, I would say something like the Pyro Crab, or the Whip Crab, maybe the Boreal Stalker as well. We haven't seen them, and hopefully storm walls around Crusader's Gas Giant. But what else? Now, enhancements were also made to the character customizer, including the successful integration of new heads, which will offer players more variety and customization options. And finally, we have the visual effects team, who supported teams on deliverables for Alpha 3.2.4 and 4.0, including the RSI Zeus Mark II. Visual effects also supported locations on new biome archetypes, including these acidic caves, alongside new modules for Pyro, and they progressed with tasks for several upcoming features such as the fire hazard system, the resource network, and Pyro itself. So a lot of very important upcoming features there. So there you go. A lot of incredible work going on here, and although it's potentially going to be a bit of a bumpy road ahead, as we have seen with Alpha 3.2.4, it is getting there, and likelihood is with 4.0 as that rolls out and server meshing being such important tech that affects everything again, it'll take time to dial it in. But the alpha that we currently have is changing massively with each subsequent patch, and it is pushing it closer and closer to being that experience that we're all after. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please do consider subscribing. We are making a push for 70,000 subscribers, so if you would do me a massive favour and subscribe, I would much appreciate it. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. You are all more than welcome over there, whether you are new or old to the game. The link is in the description. Always a great time hanging out with you all, playing some off-grid Star Citizen, or talking about development, and if you've got any questions, that is the best place to ask. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members for making these videos possible. Cannot do it without you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.